Hello, Ron.
Good morning, Dicken.
Hey, yeah, good morning for you.
That's good evening, I can say.
It's about dinner time here.
Lovely. So good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you again. Really good, Ron.
Lovely. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, how nice.
And I think maybe we give a couple of minutes for more people to join if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I'm in no rush.
Oh, fantastic. How's your day been, Dicken?
It's been a really nice, very relaxing day.
Yeah.
Had a nice romp on the beach with my dog.
Oh, lovely. I've been following it on Facebook.
Oh,
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly they grow,
oh my gosh. Yeah,
like kids. Just faster.
yeah, that's for sure. I can't believe he's a little over 2 years old now.
Mm,
Seemed like we just got him not that long ago. So,
yes. Excellent. Dicken, maybe if we don't mind to kick off, just want to take a moment first to acknowledge and thank everyone for joining us. Dicken, for us in Australia, it's always good to have someone of your caliber and one of the pioneers come online to share some of their understanding, share some of the goodness of the
mm,
principles.
mm,
And for everyone else, this has sort of been almost 2 months in the making, almost, that we've been sort of exchanging emails between me and Dicken. And I wasn't sure about a topic that I'm going to ask Dicken to talk to. And one day it just came up as tapping into wisdom. And I thought that that's a perfect topic that I would love Dicken to talk to. Dicken, I've got a lot of respect for you, a big follower of the work you're doing.
mm.
And just the clarity of your message just blows me away. Uh, so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Dicken. And thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. It's really my pleasure. It's wonderful to be with you. Thank you for inviting me to come and speak with you. I know it's morning there now, so I'm glad you were able to make the call. So, and Rowan, of course, thank you for your patience in finding a time that would work between our two wildly different schedules.
Anytime.
I understand you're on Friday already, and I'm still on Thursday. So it's
Right. Yeah. Almost in a week.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, tapping into wisdom, it's so funny. Over the last 35 years, I would say learning about something that can't be explained has become about one of the absolute most important things I've ever learned. Uh, it's very interesting that there is this, to me, it's almost magical intelligence that we're all connected to that's been playing an essential part in our lives from the moment from before birth and continues to help guide us through life. It just seems magical in a sense because we're not doing it, but it's living us, moving us, guiding us, helping us. And in talking about this for a long time with clients from all over the world, as people begin to intuit the truth that there's something that will guide them, in particular when their mind is relaxed and open and receptive. It's in the same way you look up in the sky and there's a sun, but a lot of times we don't receive that light so directly because it gets blocked by clouds. In the same way, our wisdom can be innocently covered up. But fortunately, every one of us is built to come back to the present moment. And in the present moment, our mind starts opening again. And so in all of those moments when we're not caught up in thinking about life, this deeper intelligence is shining through and guiding us. Even in life and death situations. Because this is the intelligence of the universe. So it's not a problem for the intelligence of the universe that knows how to create everything that exists in life and operate it, knows how to operate what's created. Any of you who have children, yeah. I mean, to look at a baby. I've been fortunate to be present at 4 births and to watch babies come into the world, and right away they're moving and responding. It's just, you get to witness the way wisdom can move something as wide open and innocent as a newborn baby. The reason why it's been hard to talk about wisdom and why many people are not told about wisdom and why it's sort of stayed in the background, like in my field, in psychology. I'd been a psychologist 10 years and I never heard a psychologist use the word wisdom. Isn't that interesting? And it's sort of interesting, why are we a society that doesn't talk much about wisdom or apparently value wisdom? Well, the first problem with wisdom, it's a formless intelligence. It's a formless intelligence. There is a group of scientists in the United States from all over the world. For years and years, they've been studying the energy of our universe. The energy of our universe. Not the multiverses, but our universe. And they came out with the conclusion of their years of research. You know what they said? They said, if you take everything in our universe that has form, that can be seen with some kind of instrumentation, like the most powerful telescopes can see. One time I was with a friend, we had a not very powerful telescope and we pointed it toward a completely black section of the sky, and we looked through the telescope and there were hundreds of stars. We couldn't see them with the naked eye, and there were stars everywhere. It was a beautiful, beautiful starry evening. No clouds. And anytime we pointed the telescope where it was dark, we'd find hundreds and hundreds of stars. So if you measured the energy of all the stars and planets and comets and asteroids and everything that can be seen with telescopes, and everything that can be seen with instrumentation, so this now includes subatomic microscopes that can detect the smallest known particles of matter. The physicists say that electrons and neutrons and neutrinos and neutrinos are temporary condensations of energy that dance into existence and then disappear. So if you measure the energy of everything in the universe that has form or matter, the condensed universe, what percentage of the universe do you think that is? It's 4%. Now, isn't that interesting? 96% of the energy in our universe is what they call dark energy or dark matter, and it's completely formless and impossible to see with any instrumentation. And yet it's essential for life. So the physicists are starting to sound like mystics. They're starting to say what is essential is invisible to the eye, invisible to instrumentation. Because the greatest mystery of life is that out of this invisible dimension of life, everything is created. Now, I was fortunate to spend a lot of time with a man named Sidney Banks, who had had an enlightenment experience. It was a very rare, spontaneous enlightenment experience. He wasn't looking for it. It just happened spontaneously. And he describes his experience of being drawn into this buzzing field of white light and disappearing in that field. And it was infinite. He entered the dimension of life that's infinite, the formless dimension of life, what some people call the spiritual dimension of life, what some people call the quantum field. And he spontaneously realized the essential nature of that field, that it's full of creative potential, because everything that has taken form in the universe has come from that field. So it's full of creative potential. It's not just a void field. It's not empty, it's dynamic. It's full of life energy just waiting to burst forth into form. He called that the power of thought. Is full of consciousness, because every single cell in the universe that's created has a degree of awareness. Little one-celled amoebas respond to heat, light, touch. They're swimming around looking for food, responding to stimuli. Everything. Consciousness. Brain researchers have been looking for consciousness in the brain. They've never been able to find it because it's not in the brain. The brain is in this infinite field of consciousness. And it's formless. It's part of the 96%. And this is the cool part. This field is also, they say, and mystics say this, and quantum physicists say this, that this spiritual field, this spiritual dimension is full of intelligence because it knows how to create and it knows how to operate what's created. So take a look at a baby. Didn't exist. Then two cells exist. Then they get together. I'm just simplifying this a little bit, but you get the point. The two cells get together. They have a party. Pretty soon there's 4 cells, 8, 16, 32. And all of a sudden, some of those cells know how to specialize into skin, some into the heart, some into lungs. I have a friend who just gave birth, and they now can take videos of the fetus when it's pea size. And then she kept sending me videos as it got bigger and bigger, and pretty soon there's arms and their legs, and they're moving around, and all these different systems start being created: respiratory, circulatory, nervous system, all these different systems. And then they coordinate. This intelligence knows how to coordinate all of that and operate it. I started getting interested in this intelligence because my teacher, Sydney Banks, said, every one of you, whether you know it or not, is connected to the intelligence of the universe. And no one can claim to be more intelligent when it comes to wisdom. We're like waves on this infinite ocean of formless life energy. So no wave can claim to be more ocean than any other wave. It's a misunderstanding. Everyone has wisdom. It's not personal, but we're connected to an intelligent field. And when our personal mind is open and receptive, that intelligent field guides us the way it guides flowers to open up and turn toward the sun and turn light through photosynthesis into energy so it can continue to grow and it can follow the sun across the sky. So I began to think of wisdom as an intelligent energy that moves things in life toward the light, toward thriving, if we don't get in the way and obstruct it. Something human beings, unfortunately, have gotten very good at. I sure did. I watch how wisdom with little birds come to my bird feeder. And I've just, for years, I've been watching them through my binoculars and with my naked eye and watching them. And they are looking around, then they fly into the feeder and they know which side of the feeder to land on that's safest for them at that moment. Keeping an eye out for predators that might sweep in. Right? Our predators, we have hawks, we have cats. So they're looking around. They also look around at the birds that are bigger than them, so they stay away from them. So they dance around our feeder because we have a circular feeder, and they dance around, knowing exactly where to go. And they're not analyzing it. They're not trying to figure it out. It's just intuitive. Some people would say instinctual. But this is no different than you when you drive a car. You're going along down the road. sometimes at very fast speeds, and sometimes passing other cars coming very fast speed the other way, and your hand is doing this on the steering wheel. And you're not analyzing, should I turn it a quarter turn now, or should it be half an inch, or should it be this far? It's just happening. That's wisdom, helping you make life and death decisions without having to think about making a decision. We'll talk more about that later. Most people think if they have a decision to make, they have to think about it. I've sort of come to the conclusion if I have a big decision to make, the less thinking I do about it, the easier it is for a decision to be made by wisdom. When we finish talking, I imagine, without thinking about it, at some point you'll stand up. How do you know when that's going to happen or when to do it? Do you analyze? I'm going to stand up at exactly 9:05. See, we're being lived by an intelligence. This same intelligence knows how to beat your heart because you're not doing it, knows how to breathe you because you're not doing it, and knows how to create electrical chemical activity dancing around, as a neurologist told me, dancing around inside your brain at the speed of light. You're not doing that, not the you that you think you are. But here's the deal. Who we really are is not the 4%. That's what Sid Banks called ego. Who we really are, in essence, is the 96%, but our true self is 100%. Because we're not separate. The wave can imagine that it's separate from other waves, and I'm a small wave and there's big waves. But in truth, we're all connected to the same ocean of life energy. That's a metaphor. Could say we're all part of the infinite sky of life energy, whether in form or formless. That's what Sid realized. We're all one. Now, when we start thinking about life, our concepts can create the illusion that I'm different than you and separate. So we can say, well, there's a billion different human beings, but there's only one being. There's a billion different humans, but there's only one being. Because we're all connected to the being. Life, formless life energy that's dynamically wise, intelligent, wise, awake, aware, so that the quieter we get, the more awake and aware we become. And full of creative potential, so that when we're stuck with problems, if we stay in the 4%, like most people do, you don't find creative solutions. But when you fall out of the 4%, every human being is creative, because new and fresh will start occurring to you. Now, for a long time, we thought, well, certain people are creative. Like my wife's an artist. Now I go, well, she's creative and I'm not. But in our essence, we're all creative, because any human being, if you let go of your old thinking, you'll get new and fresh feeling and new and fresh thinking. It's a beautiful thing to discover. When I learned this, my daughter was 14. By the time she was 16, she knew as much about this as I did. And we loved talking with each other about this, sharing what we were seeing. her best friend betrayed her and embarrassed her in front of the whole school, accusing her of something she didn't do because she wasn't even in the place where this happened. And she was devastated and came home crying and upset. And this was the first insight she had about the power of thought, the formless power of thought, this creative potential dimension of life. That out of nothing we have mental activity that creates our feelings. It's not being created by outside of us, if there is such a thing. And I came home from work and she runs up to me and says, Dad, this stuff works. I say, what do you mean, sweetie? And she told me about what happened and how upset she was. And she was upset and crying all afternoon long, 13 years old. Any of you who have young teenagers, you can see sometimes things get a little emotional. And then she saw it and she said, Dad, all of a sudden I realized that I'm not around this person and I haven't been from when this happened. And all day I've been thinking about it. When I realized that the thinking I was doing was continuing to create this feeling, it brought me right back to the present moment. My thinking quieted down and I started to feel better for no reason. So my daughter and I would help each other and remind each other that if you wake up, you can tell by your feeling of tension, stress, or upset. That's what covers our wisdom. We're caught up in thinking that's creating tension, stress, or upset. When we wake up to the fact of thought, we come back to the present moment. And anytime people are in the present moment, their thinking starts to relax, fall away, flow, disappear, dissolve, melt. What's left? What's left when all of our thinking falls away? This is what Sid Banks would call pure thought, because it's formless. It's the creative potential dimension of thought. What's left? Pure consciousness. What's pure consciousness? Awareness, unimpeded, uncontaminated by ideas, beliefs, and concepts. It's when any human being is able to perform better and do better, no matter what their job is, what they're doing in life. Whether it's sports or being an engineer, it's when we're most fully present that the doorway to well-being is open and we start to feel passion for life, enthusiasm. You know the word enthusiasm? It means to fill with theos. Enthusiasm, theos, that spirit, to fill with spirit. And it's uplifting. You watch little kids, they love living in the present moment and they live in entheos. So that's the second thing that my daughter and I were learning, is that when we rest in the present moment, it opens the door. Our mind is open rather than closed. It opens the door to this creative flow of new and fresh thinking and feeling. So you start to feel better. That's why people go on vacation. That's why people love doing things where they become really present. If you ask someone, what do you love to do? You'll find when that person is most present. Because if you're thinking, you can't enjoy, you can't be happy, you can't, not while you're thinking. If I'm in with my wife and I'm thinking, she'll never say, you're present here, you're listening, you're loving. She says, where are you? You're gone, you're distracted, you're not here. If in the morning, I get up early, I get my dog up and we have this little ritual, and we go into the living room and I jump up onto the couch and he jumps up next to me and snuggles in. And we connect in that quiet presence. That's how you connect with people, with dogs, with animals. Dogs can tell when you're present. If I pick up my phone to check my emails, you know what my dog does? He smacks my hand with his paw. It's like, pay attention. Don't leave yet. Stay here. Sometimes little kids, if their parents don't give them presents, they'll grab their face and hold it. So they have to look at them. Okay, so that's the second thing we were learning, is that if we wanted to access well-being, we have to open the door to well-being, and that's called living in the present moment. Sid used to say, if you realize you're caught up, just do the best you can to come back to the present moment. It doesn't take energy to be present. It takes energy to keep thinking hard about things. And the third thing my daughter and I were learning about, which is this tapping into wisdom, is that when our minds are present, pure thought, when we're open to deeper feeling and awareness, pure consciousness, the deeper intelligence of universal divine mind will reveal secrets to you. It will move you in a way that's helpful for you in that moment. I don't care what the situation is. Doesn't matter what the situation is, the intelligence of the universe. It knows how to move what's created toward well-being. It's unbelievable. Most adults, when they feel tension, stress, or upset, have learned to rely on their intellect, so they do even more thinking. They run to their computer to analyze, try to figure out what's going on, what's wrong, what do I do about it, how do I deal with this? Me too. It's a habit. We haven't grown up in a wisdom-based society, although there's a lot of us in the world working on shifting from a 4% ego-based society to a 100% wisdom-based society. It'll transform everything. It's already transforming relationships and people's lives and helping them find their way out of suffering and addictions and abuse and all forms of negativity. It eliminates. Wisdom is the cure for conflicts. It's the lack of wisdom that leads toward arguments, fights, disagreements, all the social ills, insensitivity to those who are suffering, to injustice. It's very interesting. The one book Sid Banks wrote that wasn't a teaching metaphor or story, it was called The Missing Link. And if you take a look at this book, you'll see how important Sid Banks felt wisdom was for people to learn about and understand. He starts the book talking about wisdom. It's the very first thing of all the things he could talk about, of all the things that were revealed to him in his enlightenment experience. He wanted to start with wisdom, and guess what the last chapter of the book is? It's all about wisdom. So I suggest you pick up the book and look at the first part of the book and go to the last chapter and look at those. I've reflected on those many, many times. But I just want to, before I open it up, and I'm going to stop talking in just a minute. So, because I'd love to hear what you're hearing or answer any questions you might have. We only have an hour, right, Ron?
That's right, Dicken.
Okay, good. Wisdom is practical, even though it's formless and can't be seen, and it can't be understood by the intellect. And we can learn to recognize the way wisdom comes into our lives and brings us what we need when we need it, when our minds are relaxed and open and receptive. We'll begin to see that when we get misusing our mind and our minds start to generate and create tension and stress and upset, it's not a bad thing if you understand it. Tension, stress, and upset in your life is a signal. It's a call to wisdom. It's saying you're not going to find the answer in your intellect. So any thinking you're doing right now will not help you find peace, joy, love, happiness, insights, inspiration, motivation, clarity, perspective, common sense, solutions to problems. Why is that? Because they come to human beings naturally when our minds are open and quiet. Oh, I could do this. Oh, this makes sense. Do you know what that's been called? Common sense. It's thinking that pops into our mind when we're not thinking. That helps us make sense of life, and it comes from a common ground, the one source, the one being, the one ocean of life energy. Common sense. Everybody has common sense. So I told my daughter 3 things that I want you to keep learning about. One is thought creates our experience, so that when you feel tension, stress, and upset, you can go, oh, it's now I'm using my mind innocently to hold on to thoughts that are creating this feeling. And it's an invitation to let go of everything I'm thinking, not do more thinking. And then you'll fall into the now, the present moment. And in the now, any tension, stress, and upset will begin to fall away, diminish, dissolve. And you'll start to feel better, because old thinking gets replaced with new when we get out of the way. And when you feel better, built into those feelings, built into the feeling of aliveness, of freshness, of newness, of enthusiasm, of peace, of joy, of happiness, of love, of presence. The feeling of presence is a beautiful feeling, no matter what mood you're in. And as I learned from Sid Banks, there is enormous intelligence coming through us. When our minds are open, we're in deeper feelings of well-being. And then that intelligence is just part of the package deal of well-being. Daniela, I've been admiring your logo there, Rejuvenate. When we fall out of the old, we get new and fresh, and we become younger. We rejuvenate. We become like children again, open, alive, creative, fresh in the moment. We rejuvenate, juveniles we become. There's a phrase, be ye renewed, made new again, renewed, be ye renewed in spirit, refreshed. Why do we go on vacation? So that we can have recreation, recreation. It's built into our wisdom is built into our language. But you have to know that it's there so that you can rely on it, so that when you're having difficulty, you have a choice. Rely on stored information and memory, which sometimes can be very helpful, don't get me wrong, or you can rely on the intelligence of the universe. One is personal and one is impersonal or universal. So as people's level of consciousness goes up, their relationship to wisdom becomes more intimate, more open. You go, thank God I feel upset. It's reminding me that I can't find the answer by thinking with my intellect, and it's inviting me. It's part of wisdom's intelligence. It's a beautiful system. It's like biofeedback system. The alarm is going off to wake you back up to the present moment so that you can be renewed, rejuvenated, nourished, brought to life. Even when I was being taught problem solving, they say, think about the problem with your intellect. That's cool. That's what it's built for. You know, gather together your information, but you won't solve the problem at that stage. The next stage is you have to let go of everything you know and think you know. This is what ego never wants to do. Ego doesn't know there's a 96%. How can the computer know about the whole world that lives beyond the computer of the programmer? Right? So we fall open to the 96%. Boom, new and fresh. We start being moved and directed. It's so practical. It changed my parenting. I'd be upset with my kids. And if I was fortunate enough to wake up to the fact of thought, I'd go, oh, I'm holding on to a lot of negative thought right now. Why would I continue to hold on to this or continue to think what I'm thinking? Why would I believe that thinking to be truth? And it would bring me back to the present moment. That's what they say when you're angry, count to 10, calm down, take a deep breath, step away from your, take your hands off your thinking, step away from your thinking. You calm down, pure thought, pure consciousness. You start to feel less reactive, less stressed, less upset. Sometimes seconds later, and your mind now becomes more open and receptive so that this intelligence immediately is guiding, directing, helping. So I'd be upset with my kids. If I caught it, I'd come back to the present moment, allow myself to calm down. And when I felt better, I wouldn't even think about what to say or do. I'd just go find my kids and start talking. It worked out great every time. What a difference from when I'd get annoyed, get bothered, impatient, upset, and bring that to my kids. It was like having a cold, and now I'm sneezing on my kids, and never once did they go, oh, thanks, Dad. I appreciated your angry sneeze or your upset sneeze or your... It's just common sense. It's just common sense. Common sense is a form that wisdom takes to help guide us through life. New and fresh thinking helps guide us through life. Creative thought helps guide us through life. Okay. I've yammered on enough. I mean, this is absolutely, if you look on my YouTube channel, I have any number of talks about wisdom because it's just so helpful to remind people of who and what we really are and what we're connected to and how we have immediate access. We're a thought away from being open and receptive to wisdom's guidance. Shall we open it up, Ron, to anyone who'd like to?
Yes, Dicken. Just unmute yourself if you have a question or any comments, or even more so if anything landed for you.
Yeah. Is this making sense? I try to do both big picture and also down to earth practical.
We've got a hand up. Let me have a look. It says iPhone. Just go for it.
I think it's me. Can you hear me?
You can. Yeah, perfectly.
Hi, Dicken. I could listen to you all day. It's just wonderful to have you live in Australia because we usually have to listen to a recording. So thank you.
Thanks.
Look, I've been listening to the 3 Ps for a long time, and everything you said just landed today, and it just makes such good sense to me. Like I've got tingles just talking about it. But I have one area where I get stuck, and that is when you feel anxious. So for some whatever reason, you've had some anxious thinking, you're feeling fear, and the thoughts you're thinking feel very, very compelling and very gripping.
Yes.
And I find it much harder to do what you just said about dropping those thoughts and just coming out of that and standing back, because I'm already feeling fear. I'm already in this loop.
Yeah.
And it's very compelling to go down that track. And every time I say no and I try and stand back, God, it just wants to ping back at you the whole time. I wondered if you could speak to that a little bit.
Well, first of all, I think that's really common. Everybody has certain experiences or situations where it's hard to really see that we're living in a 4% illusion. It seems real. Seems true. It's only 4% of the story. And we think it's 100% of the story. So it's hard to even see that it's just thought. It's just made up. It's just the thought content is only 4% of it. It's hard to see that. It was hard for me to see anxiety, really, really, really hard, because it seemed like my anxiety was connected to the outside. Situations made me anxious. People made me anxious. Certain things made me anxious. Not knowing how to deal with stuff made me anxious. And so it was hard for, even though I could say, oh, I know it's thought, to tell you the truth, I really didn't. Because thought is a 96% formless power that generates our experience. So if you really know it's thought, you'll focus on the 96% rather than the 4%. You'll focus on the power of thought rather than the content of your thinking. And that starts freeing people. And then there's lots of things that can free people, lots of insights. You can have an insight into any one of the 3 principles, and it can loosen up a habit pattern of thinking and feeling. When I started learning more about wisdom, I said, oh, I don't have to be anxious about not thinking about this problem, because there's an intelligence that will keep thinking about it and take care of it and bring me guidance. So as my understanding about wisdom deepened, I did better with my anxiety. As I saw thought deeper, it helped me with my anxiety. As I saw this space of deep presence, you see, if I tell anybody, don't pay attention to anything you're thinking is up to right now, just ignore it like you would if you're in a room full of people talking, you don't pay attention to every conversation. Just imagine that everybody's speaking around you. That voice in your head is speaking in a foreign language you don't understand. And be aware of what's here, under, behind. What's left when you let go of all of your thinking, and it's like a presence. When we begin to focus on the 96%, the 4% calms right down. If you keep focusing on the content, either inside you or outside you content, because that's all form. Your thoughts, your feelings, the world, what people are doing, what's happening, that's all in the 4%. The cure for everything that ails people psychologically is when their attention shifts from the 4% to this. So Sid would say, look for silence, look for quiet, look for the formless. Drop out of thinking into a space. It's a space. Look for that space. He would give us hints constantly that would try and orient us beyond our egos, beyond our 4%.
Amazing.
Is that helpful?
Oh,
they're just hints.
I've just been focusing so much on the 4%.
We all do. We're still living in a Newtonian view of the universe where the only thing that exists is what's visible. And this is a quantum view where what's visible is practically nothing.
Yeah.
It's practically nothing. And so there's an evolution in science and in our spiritual understanding that's including more and more of what truly exists rather than only focusing on the 4%. For 200 years, psychology has focused on the 4%, and they've looked at thought content, feeling content, and behavioral content, and how we interact with the physical world. It's not anybody's fault. It's part of the evolution. It's part of the evolution of life, of science, continually evolving to higher levels of consciousness or higher levels of understanding. It's very hopeful. Very hopeful.
Oh, thank you very much. That's been very helpful. Thank you.
And wisdom has nothing to do with age. The wisest person I met other than Sid Banks was a 7-year-old kid. He came into my office. His mom was a worrier, and she was worried that he liked to spend more time with adults and kids. She wanted me to test him and see if he was okay. And so he came into my office, and he walked right up to me, and he was so present. So he was like a newborn baby present. Just present. And he goes, "Oh, hi, you must be Dicken. How are you doing?" But he meant it. And I go, "Oh, well, let me take a sense." I didn't answer offhandedly. "Oh, I'm fine." "Oh, how am I doing?" And then we started talking, and he said, "So, Dicken, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, how am I going to explain this to a 7-year-old, I think?" As if he doesn't already know what I'm going to point him toward. So anyways, I babble something, and I'm dying to hear what he would think of this. So I started talking to him like I've been talking to you. We live in a world of thought. Most people don't know that. The power of thought creates everything we feel. Most people don't know that. When we quiet down, there's beautiful feeling. In those feelings, it's full of intelligence and wisdom. And he goes, Dicken, I know what you mean. And I said, oh, tell me. He says, well, if I don't know what to do with myself, sometimes I go into my room and get on my bed and it's like I'm going to sleep, but I don't go to sleep. Do you know what I mean? See, a lot of adults can't even follow it that far. It's like he says, I let go of everything I'm thinking. I take my attention off the 4% completely. It's like I'm going to sleep, but I don't go to sleep. And I said, oh, can you say anything more than that? And he goes, well, it's like I'm going to sleep, but I don't. And at a certain point, I always feel better. And when I feel better, then I know what to do. Guess who paid who for this session? I said, thank you. I had a massive insight, and for 3 months I'm flying around, and every time I got upset, I could hear his words. It's like I'm going to sleep. I let it all go, but I don't go to sleep. I stay alert. That's the definition of a meditative state of mind, deeply relaxed, yet fully alert. Sid says if you have insights into the principles, it'll bring you naturally into a meditative state. And then wisdom is found there. That's where wisdom takes over and lives you perfectly. You don't have to figure out what to do. It's already living you. If it takes you to the bathroom, that's where wisdom thinks you need to go right at that moment. People say, oh, I'm not getting any answers. Yeah, wisdom took you to the bathroom. And then it'll take you to the refrigerator. And then it'll take you to call so-and-so. And before you know it, if you let wisdom take over, it will resolve any problem you have, and it'll help you navigate anything gracefully. Anybody else have something you'd like to add or ask?
I just like
Oh, hi, Daniela.
about children, you know.
Are you the one with that great
Sorry, that
rejuvenate?
pattern.
Are you the one with the
Yeah.
rejuvenate? I
Thanks,
love that. That's very clever. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I just wanted to chime in to, you know, with the children. You know, I have a young son, and when he was a lot younger, you know, I kind of used to worry about, you know, certain things and, you know, behaviors and whatever. And as soon as I let go of that, I mean, his innate state, you know, it wasn't him at all. I realized it was me, you know, and the things that he said, like he's now 10, but the things that he says is just mind blowing, you know, it's amazing. And my husband's away with him at the moment, and he's actually now catching on to what I've been saying, like just let him go. His innate state is beautiful, you know, just leave it.
Yeah. Oh.
That through his own, without all that preconceived thoughts or, you know, yeah, thinking that he had. And he's like, wow, he's so creative and he's so, you know, it's just amazing that because we've got these, you know, as adults, we've got these preconditioned thoughts of how children should behave, and, you know, we want to put them in boxes and all.
Yes.
We get focused on that, and we can't see past that until we see them in they're just glowing in their,
Well,
we've let go of our thoughts, and yeah, no, go ahead.
I love what you're saying, Daniela. I love that you're learning to look beyond the surface of people's behavior. You look deep enough, you'll get the eyes for seeing the 96%.
Mm.
You'll see that every person is wise inside. You'll see people's innate well-being and know that but for their thinking, they have perfect well-being inside at all times, never goes away.
I had a talking to yesterday, and she said, but you don't even know me. Like I said, underneath that thinking, I see you as a beautiful person. I don't see you as that thinking that you're creating. Oh, but you don't even know me. I said, I don't know you maybe physically, but I know behind you there's a beautiful soul, and I said to her, we're spiritual beings. She was sort of taking see, a lot of times we ourselves get caught up in our own thinking and what people have put labels on us. And we don't see ourselves for the true beings who we are before all that.
How nice that you could not only say that to your grandson, but know it to be true. I had to wait until I was 42 before anybody said that to me. Dicken, you have perfect well-being inside behind all that thinking you're doing all day long.
Yeah, I love it when kids then point it back to us.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, thank you for the reminder.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. That's right. Beautiful.
Yeah. So thank you. It was beautiful.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's great.
Any final thoughts? Any final comments?
Anyone. Feels like an auctioneer, doesn't it? Going once, going twice. Anybody.
Rhonda,
It looks like Rhonda is talking. Rhonda, were you talking or were you just sold to the woman who raised her hand?
I was just saying thank you. It's been absolutely wonderful. And for us in Australia to have you at this time of day is it's miraculous.
Oh, that's great, Rhonda.
And I came onto this thinking about anxiety. So the iPhone lady did a wonderful job asking my question for me. So thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Did you folks know there's a new on YouTube, finally, after years and years, there's now a Sid Banks channel. If you type in the YouTube search, you know about that, type in Sydney Banks channel, and it'll pull up every one of the available recordings, plus some newer ones that have been released in the past year or two. And we'll keep adding more on that. And also they're being translated into, we're finally getting on top of this, the three principal global community that I'm on the board of, and working with Shane Kennedy, the publisher of all of Sid's materials, working together to get translations. And now it's nice to know, if you listen to Sydney Banks, don't listen to him as if he's an expert. If you were with him, he'd say, don't listen to my words. I'm trying to point you within yourself, beyond your thinking, to a dimension that's there in everybody. Look where I'm pointing, right? So if every word you hear, you realize is trying to point you toward that quiet, that field of creative potential, pure thought, that field of infinite awareness, pure consciousness, that field of infinite intelligence, pure mind, then you'll benefit enormously. And then more and more, that's how you listen to anyone, and how you listen to each other, and how you listen to life as you're walking down the street or along the ocean.
I was just going to say, you come with me on my walks some mornings, along with Sydney Banks and a lot of you. It's terrific.
Oh, how nice. I'm glad I can go for a walk with you. I'm living vicariously, let me tell you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks again, Ron.
Oh, yes, Dicken, and just a moment to thank you and really appreciate the time you took for coming online and this time, and for sharing the message and the goodness of the principles. I really appreciate it, and thank you very much.
All righty. Well, I wish you well. I see you're still very much involved in the martial arts.
That's
Boy,
right.
there's so many metaphors can come out of when you're dancing around with someone else, the way of being moved and responding, and it's getting out of the way. And I was thinking about that before we came on.
Yeah. That's right. And the focus, Dicken, is more nowadays on development as opposed to the martial side. So it's more about the personal development side. And in Australia, we've got a big focus on bullying with kids. So there's a big focus on
Fabulous.
Because a lot of kids do struggle with that. And
it's great to hear. It's all of the disciplines are starting to pay more attention to the well-being, spiritual side. Yoga is balancing, focusing only on movements to development, as you said.
Yeah.
So a lot of science is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Good news. We're evolving as a species.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone else, thank you for joining. Really appreciate it. And I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks, but I'll keep the post up. I've also created some new guides for you to get into on the Facebook group. So go explore and share some of your comments. And Dicken, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good
welcome.
Thank you, Dicken.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So lovely being with you.